Coffs Harbour at the southern boundary of the Solitary Islands Marine Park, and we're here to run a forum on marine conservation, and what we're trying to achieve is to bring a whole lot of stakeholders together to see if we can find some common ground and some common values with respect to marine conservation.
G'day, welcome to Coffs Harbour area. We're out here today around the base of Muttonbird Island, Gidya Morale, which is a very sacred place to my people, the Gumbaynggirr Aboriginal people here. The island itself is a very special ceremonial place, but the ceremonies are no longer held there. And these ceremonies were increased ceremonies to increase the numbers of shearwaters, the muttonbirds on the island, as well as all the marine life around the island. So it still holds a very special place to my people to this day.
Okay, so we're at the southern section of the Solitary Islands Marine Park. The closest island we have here is Split Solitary Island. You can't actually see the split through it from the angle that we're at, but it's a really important island in terms of its biodiversity in an inshore environment. Then further offshore we have South Solitary Island, so that's got its historical significance. We've got the lighthouse on the island. It's a very popular spot for its amenity value, its fishing, its diving. It's renowned for its big fish. So it's a really popular spot for locals and visitors alike. And the island you see further to the north, it's locally known as Groper Island, but its formal name is Southwest Solitary Island. And again, a really popular area, particularly for diving. That's the island, the only island in the park that's surrounded by a sanctuary zone in its entirety, and part of a larger sanctuary zone that connects beach, rocky shore, a mid-shelf reef, island fringing reef. So it's part of this connective, protected area. So moving into the actual Solitary Islands Marine Park, just how we manage the SIMP. So the southern boundaries at Coffs Harbour at the most easterly aspect of Muttonbird Island, and it's about 75 kilometres up the coast to Plover Island at the Sandon River. One of the key features of the area is the influence of the East Australian current mixing with the cooler currents from the south, and that's why we get this amazing mix of marine plants and animals.
Really what we need to do for the future, and Mark mentioned what are we going to hand on to our kids sort of stuff, we need to look at what are some of the potential climate change effects. Are there things we can do about that? When we add additional stresses over the top of that, like urbanisation, stormwater runoff, the decreasing water quality and the exploitative activities that occur in many of these habitats, we reduce resilience and we reduce the capacity of the environment to recover. So this is the way forward, maximising resilience.
2010 economic impact study by Tourism Research Australia identified 1,731 local businesses linked to tourism within the Clarence and Coffs Harbour local government areas. None of those businesses showed any indication of a decrease in business because of the Solitary Islands Marine Park. I think we found we got quite a balanced result in the end. Ashley will disagree, but then I can understand needing more areas, but we did have to weigh up one of the important factors for tourism is people want to sit on the beach and have a feed of fish and chips. So we do need the commercial fishers. It's an important part of it, but the correct management is what's required.
All we have ever asked for is that you listen respectfully to us, to the recreational fishers, and address the real issues that affect our marine estate. Water quality, catchment management, urban and industrial runoff. Introduced species, illegal fishing. But no, you have chosen to target and ostracise the recreational fisher. Well, I refer back to my opening comment. What have recreational fishers learned from history, and are we doomed to repeat it? Well, apathy has led to an imbalance of power and the current state of play. But let me assure you, we have learned our lessons, and the stark daily reminder of our past apathy is the marine park system we have in New South Wales.
I don't think recreational fishing in any of its forms is a real threat to marine biodiversity. It's an impact activity, the same as scuba diving, breathing. You can't have humans without having impacts. real impacts need to be addressed, because it's like having poison air. If the water quality is no good, nothing will survive. We need to look at agricultural practices, agricultural runoff, introduced species, habitat loss, habitat loss and degradation and sedimentation. These are the real issues we need to look in a marine park, and then when we address those issues, we can say that marine park is really protected.
This might be a bit contentious, and I'm sorry if I get anyone offside here, but look, I really think that scuba divers, perhaps more than most groups, are really keen to see that representative areas of each of the diverse habitats that we have out here are protected in a sanctuary zone. I'd also like to make the point that, you know, scuba divers, like a lot of you people, you don't just fit neatly into one user group. So amongst the diving fraternity, you'll find beach walkers, you'll find surfers, spearos, like myself, keen recreational fishermen. And so I think in one sense, scuba divers have a really holistic view about what the marine park's all about. Doesn't mean that our voice should be heard over anyone else's, but I just think we have this really holistic view from that point.
Greenpeace, that group that got a mention a while ago, have just held up for 1 week the departure of the super trawler, FV Margiris, the second largest fishing trawler in the world, that's set on exploiting Australian fish stocks. I would hope that all fishers and all conservationists can combine to fight off this threat. To that end, I see some positive signs of cooperation between the Greens, the conservationists and the fishers in Tasmania, and I hope that bears fruit. We potentially have so much in common. As I noted in my talk, I think there's much more in common between fishers and environmentalists than there ever was between environmentalists and the timber industry, for example. So we should have a good basis for talking together, not fighting each other.
I think there was common consensus on a lot of issues. Pollution was a big thing, urban runoff, and these are major issues as far as water quality, because with bad water quality the whole process is gone.
It's been really valuable to understand the other points of view the stakeholders have, and to really understand that there is a lot of common ground, and I believe that was the purpose of today, is to see what the common issues throughout the different stakeholder groups are. And most interestingly, I think we're all hoping that there's conservation for future generations, and I can see that there's a way forward for that.
Everyone working together for a consensus, that's the hard part, but it's also the important part. And looking at the terrestrial influence on the park, that's a major area that we all parties have to be aware of.
What I see behind me here in Coffs Harbour is a mountain range, partly developed going up to the slopes, but beyond that, in the large creeks that feed into this area, we know there are impacts from logging and agriculture, banana farming, and we'd like to get a handle on just the extent to which those impacts from the land are actually impacting on the water. And so we've got together people from the Catchment Management Authority at this conference, and scientists. Scientists are actually doing work on impacts of terrestrial rubbish that might come in, and sediment that might come into the marine park, and what can be done about it. So through these multiple groups working together, we really believe that there might be common ground where 1 + 1 might in fact equal 3.
Well, our relationship as Aboriginal people, well, it's not just the land that we coexist with, it's also the marine environment, and we also got to include the sky there, because the land, the water and the sky, it is all one. We look at things on a holistic value. Everything is connected, everything is playing a place with each other. It's as part of a cycle that's never ending and never starting, it's continuing.
I'm really excited about what we achieved here in Coffs Harbour. It was fantastic meeting such a broad range of people, and we can continue the discussion long into the future to benefit marine conservation in New South Wales.